So good afternoon, morning, one more time, and welcome to this special ECHO session. My name is Dr. Jean-Emile Jab. I am Regional Coordinator on LabCoP project, and I will be the moderator for today's session. I call it a special edition in August. Okay, with the lineup for today, we'll be particularly busy, and I'd like you to sit back, relax, get a cup of tea, a glass of water, and let's get started. So today, the ECHO session will be focusing on LabCoP country level self-assessments. As we're all aware, we're in that busy part and period of the year in our project implementation cycle where we get prepared for our self-assessments. And those self-assessments are rigorous assessments that are generally carried out within the month of August and then some first 2 weeks in September. And those assessments provide the evidence and bring out the learning that later on inform the framework, the content, and the conversations that are carried on later in the part of the year during the annual project meeting. And the annual project meeting this year will hopefully be taking and coming up in October. That will be Nairobi, Kenya. So I'd like you to sit back, relax, but before then, we have to take and get prepared for the assessment. So today we'll be having two presentations, Q&A session, and then in the later part of the session, we will have a feedback. So we're expecting countries teams to provide feedback on the country dashboard, assessment dashboard that were released and rolled out some weeks back. And then we'd like to know the level of learning, we'd like to know the level of utilization and how countries are utilizing the dashboard to be able to inform implementation. So to get started today, I have the unique privilege, and it's my delight to welcome Dr. Collins Otieno to be able to give us the opening remarks. Dr. Collins, please.
And thank you, colleagues who've been able to join us for today's special session. And like our moderator stated, today we're focusing on our country self-assessment. And as we are all aware, we do the annual LabCoP meetings, and that is preceded by countries doing the self-assessments so that we can know how far we've moved with some of the key facets in our viral load monitoring, TB diagnostics, and the other essential diagnostics as well. And so today, we will be walking through some of the tools that we'll be using this time round, and then a few logistics related to the assessment, but most importantly, the scheduling of the assessments leading to our annual meeting. We will also be dealing with some of the general questions related to the annual meeting during the session. And so we're really excited to be at this point because this activity is a key activity in our calendar, and we're really excited to be reaching at this point again this year. So let me wish us the very best in having a discussion, a fruitful understanding. Kindly also note that we may not necessarily be able to get to every country as a project in terms of the 24 countries that we are supporting. And that is why we thought that this meeting would be very important so that the teams that have been dealing with some of these tools, of course, we have additional tools and a few modifications here and there on the old tools, but it should still be very okay for teams out there to be able to administer the tool and get the most valid results from the assessment and then prepare the work plan guiding implementation for the next 1 year, but also the presentation and other discussion facets that we'll be utilizing during the annual meeting. So with those, let me hand it back to the moderator, and again, wish us the very best of our deliberations during this session. Thank you, and over to you, Dr. Njab.
Thank you so much, Francis. that sets the ball rolling on the right context and platform for us to take the presentations. So today we have two presenters. The first presenter will be Elisheba Mutenge. Elisheba Mutenge is a data analyst specialist at ASLM. The second presentation will be coming from Dr. Lucy Mufuni. Dr. Lucy Mufuni is the TB diagnostic coordinator at ASLM. So we'll go with the first presentation. Elisheba, please, can you come up? The floor is yours.
Thank you, Dr. Jean. Good morning, good afternoon, everyone. As Dr. Jean has mentioned, my name is Elisheba, working for ASLM, specifically for LabCoP, supporting LabCoP with M&D activities. Today I'll be taking you through what is the expectations of the upcoming annual assessments. And first is to apologize. Probably my background could be having some noise in a public space, so apologies for that. But in case you cannot hear me or I'm not very clear, kindly feel free to stop me at any one point. So as I mentioned, for this session, we're going to take a few minutes, maybe probably 20 to 30 minutes, just to go through what each of the countries is expected for the annual assessments, for the 2025 annual assessments. And we are doing this, as Francis mentioned, so that we can be able to guide every other country, given that we might not be able to send an ASLM representative to every other country to be able to do the assessment. So we thought it wise for us to meet before the assessment, just to give guidance. But kindly, as you do your assessments, just in case anything is not clear, kindly feel free to reach out to us, either through email or WhatsApp or in any other way for us to be able to give guidance. The other objective of this session for today is to be able to support the development of data-driven work plans post the assessments. We know that we conduct the assessments and then we gather back and work on our work plans. So we want to ensure that as we work on the work plans, then they are pretty much data-driven. Then the other objective for this session is to ensure that we are able to guide you to be able to prepare your presentation for the upcoming annual meeting. Like Dr. Jean mentioned, we have an upcoming annual meeting that is going to be happening in Kenya, in Nairobi, in October. So we need each of the country teams to be able to be conversant with what they are expected to input in their country presentations, so that they are able to present to other countries, so that we are able to cross-learn across countries. So, ideally, as we may all know, given that we've done these assessments before, we usually sit for 2 to 3 days. And I think the most effective has been 3 days. So as we sit in the 3 days, we want to guide what is the expectations for those 3 days. We are going to be providing an agenda guide that is going to pretty much guide your 3 days. But in an ideal situation, this is how it would flow. So for the day one, then we would be expected as country teams to sit just after the pleasantries, the introductions and everything. We need to sit and review our previous year's work plan. Remember when we did our assessments in the last year, we created a work plan that has been guiding our implementation in the last year, that is just coming to an end this August, September. So we need to look back and ask ourselves, what activities did we have? How many have we managed to complete? And how many did we manage actually to get funding? How many did we complete? And how many are still pending? Once we do that, once we review our work plans, then we need to itemize them. We're going to be providing an itemized work plan template that we are able to input our activities. I'll be showcasing that at the tail end of this presentation. So we're going to have a line list of activities, and we're also going to be providing a ballpark value of the funding that we were able to receive in the previous year for the listed activities that we had envisioned that we are going to be working on in the previous year. So I'll be showcasing that. Why this is important to be done before we even start doing our assessment is because we very well know that we have the list of activities that we planned in the last year. We need to go back, make calls to our finance teams, revise our, relook at our budgets, and try to figure out how much were we funded. That takes a while. We need to make calls. We need to liaise with our colleagues to be able to tell what was the approximate cost that that we received as funding for those activities. So once you do it at the very first day of your work plan, then if you're not able to get it on the first day, then you can work on the second day and the third day to be able to have gotten the approximate cost that you got for that activity. So kindly ensure that that's the first thing you do before you start your assessments. Once we're done with the review of the previous work plan, then we are the ideal thing would be to split into groups, because we very know that the VL assessment is quite a huge tool and requires time. Thus, it is important for us to split into groups so that we are able to divide and rule. So we're going to divide into two groups. We're going to have a VL assessment, a VL assessment group that is combined with the WHO assessment. And then the group 2 is going to be looking at the TB assessment. We have a new tool, not like the one we did in the last year. And that's why Dr. Lucy is going to come at the after I present to be able to introduce the TB assessment tool. It's a new tool, and it is also pretty heavy, like the VL assessment tool. And that's why we need a separate standalone group that is going to be focused on assessing, on doing the self-assessment for TB. So just to repeat, we're going to have two groups, the VL assessment and the WHO assessment as one group, and then the going to be the TB assessment group. The expectation is that we are going to complete the assessment based on the tools that you're going to provide. You're going to be sharing the tools of this meeting. So once you complete the assessment, kindly ensure you note any reasons for score drops. As we work on assessment, any patient that has a drop, it is very important for us as competitors to ensure that we are able to comment or give an explanation or give a reason why probably a score dropped. Probably you had you are working on a certain domain, say diagnostics, the TB diagnostics, and you're saying in the previous year we scored a 4, and we had all the tools, we had all the guidelines to support the same, but in this year we do not have those guidelines. So if in case there's a drop maybe from 4 to 2 or 3 or 1, kindly provide a narrative or a comment to explain the same, so that we don't have to come back to be able to get a reason why probably we had a score drop. Why this is important and why it is in red is because we are continually provided funding to be able to provide implementation. And whenever donors see a drop in score, they would want to understand why we have had a drop. In case maybe it's challenges with reagents, whether it's war-torn areas, whether it's political unrest, kindly provide that so that we are also able to provide it upwards. The other thing to mention is that we try as much as possible to ensure that there is an ASLM point of contact who is in country during the assessments, so that as you're doing your assessment, in case there is need for the country teams to seek clarification on, say, questions on, say, a domain area or any question, then they're able to provide during the session. But if that is not possible, kindly feel free to reach to any of our ASLM team members through an email or WhatsApp, so that we are able to provide any clarity during the assessment period. The other key thing to note on day 1 and 2 is, as you're doing your assessment, keep noting any gaps and strengths so that you can be able to inform your next steps, whether it is during the work planning or it's during the annual meeting, where you're going to be meeting other country teams, where you'll be sharing your gaps and strengths, so that we are able to continually learn from each other. Here we go. Then once we are done with our day 1 and 2 and we have completed our assessment, hopefully by day 1 and 2 we should have been done with our assessment. We usually set aside day 3 so that we can be able to work plan and also prepare the PowerPoint presentations for the annual meeting. So on day 3, you're highly encouraged to develop the current year work plan. Remember day 1 we were looking back. What was the work plan and what have we been able to do? But now in day 3, we have completed the assessment. What are our gaps? What are our strengths? And we need to prioritize our gaps or areas that need improvement so that we can be able to generate our current year work plan, which is the 2025-2026 work plan. So once we've completed our work plan, then we can move into completing our PowerPoint, which is going to be able to summarize for us the previous years, whether you've been with LabCoP for 4, 3, 1 year, or you've just joined. You're able to showcase what was your previous year's performance against your current, the one that you've just finalized, and also what are the planned activities for the upcoming year. We highly encourage each and every country team to be able to have a collaboration while drafting the PowerPoint. May you kindly not leave it to the person who's going to be coming for the annual meeting, because it is going to be showcasing your work for the year and also for the coming year. So kindly ensure that you collaborate during the assessment period as you generate your PowerPoint. To note is that we are going to be providing a template, and the template is going to be pre-filled partially with the previous year's results, because you already have that, but we will be encouraging you to ensure that you complete your 2025 results, given that it is what you have just completed, so that you're able to compare the previous years with your current year performance. This last slide before we go to demo is just to emphasize, as Dr. Jean mentioned, on the LabCoP dashboard. I think we've talked about this many times. This is just a snippet of the dashboard. We have the home page, we have the HIV/DL assessment, we have the integration assessment, we have the EID labnet, and the TB. So this is just to emphasize for the country teams to be able to use the LabCoP dashboard to be able to monitor their performance over time, and to ensure that before you come for the annual meeting, in case you're having any challenges in accessing the dashboard, kindly get back to us so that we can be able to support you in that aspect, that you're able to access the dashboard. It is so because it's going to support data-driven planning and review, and even during your assessment, you're able to know where your pain points, so that you can be able to assess yourself further in terms of where you've not been performing well in the previous years, and also so that you can give them great mileage in the work plan. Also, we would also encourage you to look at the dashboard so that you're able to appreciate the trends and comparative performance, so you're able to tell, how was I performing in the previous years? How am I performing now? Am I dipping or as a country, or are we improving over time? So with that said, I will take a few minutes, probably maybe like 5 minutes, before I bring in Lucy to take us through what we will be sharing with you to be able to plan for your 3-day assessment that is going to be upcoming. So the first thing is the sample agenda, which is basically a summary of what I've been taking through in the presentation. So, this is the sample agenda, and it's going to be provided. Let me see if I can add the font, and it's going to be provided with both English and Portuguese. So it stipulates what is the ideal for day 1, what I was talking about, the work plan review for the previous year, the different assessment that we're going to start with, the different groups. So we're going to have a group 1 and group 2. The group 1 is going to be working on the HIV and WHO. The group 2 is going to be working on TB. So that's going to be happening. The 2 groups are going to be assessment for both day 1 and day 2. And once they complete that, you all meet in plenary and discuss and pretty much present what we've been discussing in the afternoon of day 2. Then in day 3, you're going to be completing. Remember, in day 1, we started with looking back at our work plan for the previous year. So when we meet in day 3, kindly ensure that that is completed, the itemized list of the previous work plan. Ensure that that is completed, and then you start work planning for the current year, which is 2025-2026. And then once you finalize work planning, of course, now you move into the PowerPoint. I think I mentioned that during the presentation. So at that point now you can wrap up and adjourn the meeting. Then allow me to showcase the 3 assessment tools. As much as they have not changed much. Like the VL assessment tool has not changed much. The much that has changed from the VL assessment is the removal of the work plan template. Remember, in the VL assessment in the previous year, we had a template that we used to summarize the work plan and say, in this domain, in the different domains in the VL assessment, then how many activities did we have and how many of those activities have been funded. Continually, we found the need to have all the tools that we assess, or all the work stream, may it be EID, may it be viral load, may it be WHO EID. Then we've found the need to ensure that the work plan encompasses all those work streams. And that's why it's been important for us to move the work plan template from the VL tool to be a standalone tool, so that it is looking at all the different work streams. So that's the only thing that has changed in the last year, VL assessment tool, but everything else remains the same. Going to the WHO EID assessment tool, this has not changed at all. It's the same as we had the last time. We have the instructions page that is here. Then we have the tool, and it's usually not a heavy tool. It just looks at the different questions within the WHO EID for the country, using the maturation model as we've always done it, and the instructions are well stipulated here. Kindly complete this. It's going to be very helpful as you're going to be completing your PowerPoint. So as we've done in the previous years, kindly complete this tool using the maturation model. Nothing has changed for the EID. Then for the yes, Dr. Lucy?
Would you please share the screen with the tool? We're still seeing your PowerPoint slides.
Oh, sorry for that. Thank you for that, Dr. Lucy. Thank you for that. So I'll need to stop sharing and share the whole screen. Apologies for that. Yeah, share the screen. There we go. I'm so sorry for that. Okay. Dr. Lucy, would you kindly tell me if you're able to see the agenda? The sample agenda?
Yes.
Mhm.
Yes,
Oh, I'm so sorry for the last 5 minutes. So I'll just take 1 minute just to go through. This is the agenda. I will not go bit to bit, but pretty much this is the agenda I will be sharing with you. Kindly feel free to customize it to your country needs, but this will give you a very good guide to start. You can change the timings, you can change what you start with, but ideally this would be the ideal agenda to work with, but kindly feel free to customize it to your country needs. After the agenda, I had showcased the VL assessment tool, but as I mentioned, the VL assessment tool has not changed much. The only thing that has changed is the removal of the work plan template from the VL assessment, so that we have it as a standalone tool that encompasses all the work streams, including the TB, EID, including the integration, which we are not going to be doing now, but also including the integration is now encompassed in the work plan template. I was at the TB assessment tool. This is a pretty new tool. It's the first time we are going to be doing the TB assessment. Last year we were just looking at where we are in terms of the tools availability for TB WRT. But this year we are going to be looking at the different benchmarks, and Dr. Lucy is going to be coming in to take us through this new tool. So it's going to be very important 15 to 20 minutes for us to be able to be introduced to the TB assessment. So I'll not go into what is expected of us, but basically this is what we're going to be working on. This is a TB assessment that we're going to be using, and the aggregated analysis that we're going to be using for our PowerPoint, you're going to be getting it from this tab, but the instructions are going to be very clear in the PowerPoint. Then the work plan template, I would want to say it's new. It's not new because we've had this work plan template, only that it has been in the VL assessment tool, and we had a separate one for work planning for the current year, and we had also a separate one for the itemized work plan. So what we've done is we've ensured that all the work plan templates are in one workbook, and basically this is it. So as I mentioned, during the first day of our meeting, we are going to be looking at the previous work plan and itemizing all the activities and giving a summary or a ballpark value or an estimate value of those activities. How much did it cost us, and what was the source of funding? Did we get the funding from PEFA, Global Fund? Where did we get the funding from? Then we also have this that used to be in the viral tool, where we say in the different domains, domain area A, how many activities are we planned and how many have been funded, so that we are able to compute the percentage of funding for the different domain areas. Kindly note that this is going to be for all the tools, whether it is a domain area in the viral load tool, WHO tool, or in the TB diagnostic tool. So you're going to put all those domain areas and summarize how many of those activities in the previous year did we plan for, and how many of them have been funded, and it's going to automatically compute for us the percentage of funding. After that, this is going to automatically populate the progression of the planned versus funding. Apologies, is not able to populate because I'm using the online version. But if I can quickly showcase, this is what we expect. You have the different domains, how many activities were planned, and how many have been funded. So this is just a sample graph of what you're going to have, and this is what you're going to be copying into your PowerPoint. Then at the tail end on day 3, this is what I was mentioning, that we're going to use. This is a template that we're going to use to be able to put in our technical areas, what were the gaps, and you list the activities that you're going to be working on in the current year to be able to work on the identified gaps. So this is the work plan template, not so new, but at least we've put all of them into one template for ease of the countries to be able to work plan and also look back into the previous year work plans. After the work plan is the PowerPoint template that is also going to be, as countries, we're going to be working on on the last day. I will quickly, maybe I'll use like 5 minutes just go through this, because it's also very important, because this is the template that you're going to be using on the annual meeting for you to be presenting to other countries, just to be showcasing your performance. So the first thing is, of course, for you to input the execs represent LabCoP Botswana team, LabCoP Uganda team. So you input the country name there, and then for the first slide, you're going to be inputting the recent assessment that you've done in the recent year, and of course for us it's going to be last year. So you input all the assessment that you worked on previously and when you worked on them, and also provide the stakeholders that were involved in the assessment. This is important because we would want to see if we are having all the stakeholders within the country for us to be able to bridge the gaps that we identify within the assessment. So if we are not having the private sector, if we are not having the civil society, then we would want to retrospect as a country and ensure that moving forward we are having all the stakeholders involved in the assessments. This second slide is usually provided because these are previous findings from the HIV viral load LabCoP assessment. So if you've been with LabCoP, say for 4 or 5 years, you'll be having for the 5 years here, showcasing the different performance, the different years' performance, and you're able to see how you've been performing over the years. So this one we're just going to be providing you with it, but it will be good for you as a country to introspect on it during the assessment so you see how you've been performing over the years. This other slides, and just to note, all the text in red is just instructions, and this says the country team is to update. So once you're done with your assessment, your HIV VL assessment, then in the overall domains, overall dashboard domains worksheet in your VL assessment tool, there is this table that shows the domain scope for the different domains of the VL assessment. Kindly copy that table and input it here. Then use this table to review the previous slide and see how you performed. Did you drop in demand creation, or did you even improve? Did you drop in HIV VL testing, and then use to inform your talking points or your narrative for casing how you've improved over time, or whether there were any drops, just to explain your performance. Then also in the HIV viral assessment tool, you also usually have the data availability in the data tool. We are able to see at national level, do we have data on the number of labs? Do we have data on the current on ERT? Do we have estimated number of people living with HIV? So this is data that we provide, and this is going to be provided for the different years. But we request that once you're done with completing the same in your tool, kindly copy this table and input it so that you're able to compare over the different years against the 2025 performance. How are you performing? We had reds and oranges that were showcasing that we do not have that data at national level in the previous years, or we had that data but partially. But now in the current year, then we are able to have all the data. Then once you have this tool, once you've updated this table, you can kindly summarize how the previous results compare to the current result, which is the 2025 results. Then we have the VL cascade as well. We're going to provide the previous year data in this table. Then we're going to provide for you a blank table, and you're going to input the 2025 performance. And as mentioned in the previous slides, kindly summarize how the previous year's findings compare with the 2025 findings. The same to EID. We're going to provide the previous years, then we're going to provide a section for you to provide the 2025 summary. Kindly provide a summary that compares the previous year and the current year. The TB cascade, this is new. I think Dr. Lucy is going to be providing more details, but just to mention in passing, we have provided for you a link for you to be able to get the 2023 data. Different countries, some of the countries are provided WHO data on the TB cascade, and that is you are able to access that using this link. Kindly go to this link and copy the data for these benchmarks for 2023. Then for 2024, kindly use your programmatic data to be able to provide the 2024 data so that you're able to compare 2023. This is what we had for these specific benchmarks, and for 2024, this is what we have, and of course provide a comparative analysis of how 2023 data compares to 2024. If you did not provide that WHO in 2023, kindly just provide the 2024 so that we are able to appreciate that we are able to get that data at national level. But now the problem is now you're not going to be able to do the comparative analysis. But Dr. Lucy is going to be coming in with that in her presentation. For the TBWRD assessment, once you're done with your assessment, was when I was showcasing the tool, I think I showcased this analysis table. Kindly copy that analysis table and paste it here, and then kindly provide a narrative to for the present during the annual meeting to be able to showcase what are your strengths, say in identifying people, in assessing TB, or being tested, or receiving the test, or what are your pain points. So provide that summary at this point and this white space once you delete the instructions. Then the work plan template, I showcased this this summary. So once you do your work plan funding status, copy that table as well and put it here and kindly provide a narrative, maybe to showcase how well you've been able, how easy it has been able to for you to find funding, or how challenging it has been for you to get funding, given the challenges we're having with funding in the current year of implementation. Just to explain how your summary looks like in terms of the activities that you had planned for the last year and how many you are able to access funding for. The itemized work plan for the previous year as well. I think I showcased that tool as well. Kindly also populate this with that, and also the source of funding and the ballpark value, the different activities. Once it is done, the last 3 slides are the same, but for the different work streams: the HIV VL assessment, the TB, and the EID. And these 3 slides are majorly used during the breakout sessions in the annual meetings. So it is very important for you to introspect within the country assessment time, so that you're able to look through what are your weak areas from the HIV assessment, and what are the root causes, and what are the interventions that we plan to work on in the current year to be able to overcome those weak areas. And then if you're able to populate that during your assessment, that would be very good for the person who's going to be presenting, so that they can be able to learn from other countries and populate and be able to see if they're able to pick best practices from other countries, for them to be able to come back to the country and tell you these are the best practices that we take, for us to be able to address the weak areas that we are as a country. That we should be able to do that for the VL, the EID, and also the TB. So basically, that is it for the PowerPoint presentation that you're going to be working on for the annual meeting. Last one is the LabCoP dashboard, and this one I'll not even go deep into it because we all have the link, but just to emphasize that in case you have any challenges accessing the LabCoP dashboard, kindly get back to us and we should be able to support you in the same. Otherwise, thank you so much, and over to you, Dr. J.
Great, thank you so much, Sheba, for that deep dive into the tools and what has changed, what has been tweaked, and what are the expectations. I know there will be some comments that will be coming up, and then they will be addressed when we get to our Q&A session. Without much ado, we go to the next presenter. The next presenter will be Dr. Lucy Mupunmi, and Dr. Lucy will be taking the next presentation. Dr. Lucy is the TB Diagnostic Coordinator at ASLM. Please, Dr. Lucy, you have the floor.
All right, thank you, Doc. Thank you everyone for joining us. So my task is to just take you through what the thinking was in developing this TB WRD tool. And I think for most of you, you're already familiar with the TB benchmarks, and this tool is really designed along that line. And it was we developed this as we're looking at the data for WRD use, and this is for the 24 LabCoP countries. You can see just our average over the 24 countries is 61%, which is just above the global average of 48%. Many of you will know that the UNHLM target is that all people with TB should be tested with a WRD as the initial diagnostic. And you can see some of the countries, we are actually below that global average. And then when we look at the trend since 2021 for the data that we could find in WHO, you can also see that there are some downward trends in 2023 and also generally inconsistent use of the WRD. So this really prompted us to develop this WRD2 and also prompted WHO to develop this diagnostic standard, which we have modeled the scorecard around. And you can see that since we've had the recommendation for the use of WRDs for over 10 years actually. But in 2025, we've just over 30% of TB diagnostic sites having a WRD, and we also see issues around reporting of results as well as quality assurance and drug resistance detection. So WHO has developed this 12 benchmarks that are in this WHO standard for diagnostics. And you can see that 10 of the benchmarks are really around diagnostic itself, and we have the first two talking about identification of presumptive TB. And this is we will in the scorecard we will look at all those steps to better close the gaps in the diagnostic cascade. And as you develop your work plans, you're sort of identifying what the gaps are at each step, and then developing your particular work plan linked to the LabNet tool. And when we look again at countries that had benchmark data, well, as we saw on the on the WHO database, we can again start seeing some gaps even in the submission of that data, as you can see in the gray bars. And you can see in the green bars, this is just referring to countries that reported over 90% of districts and facilities with the WRD algorithm, or over 90% of PHC access. So you can see that among the 13 countries, we sort of have varying pictures, and we can see some challenges around presumptive TB who are tested with a WRD, as well as access at the PHC level. So we want, as you're developing these work plans, we want to understand what are the reasons for these gaps. And I will show you what the benchmark, what the scorecard looks like now and how you would enter that data. But just this was to give you an overview of what the gaps are and what led us to develop the scorecard. And again, when you look at DST, again, we see some gaps in having that data available in very few countries where more than 90% of people have access to the first or second line DST. And when we look at the benchmarks that are concerned with turnaround time of results or error rates, again, we also see gaps in the data that was submitted to the WHO. So this is really what we want to take a deep dive in with the scorecard. So I thought I would give you this background before I show you the scorecard itself, which I will share right now. And please do feel free to put your questions in the Q&A box so that we can get to them. Right, I hope you can all see my screen now. You should be able to be seeing the—
Yes, we are seeing the screen.
The Excel. You're seeing the Excel, yeah?
Yes, yes.
Okay, perfect. So this first step just gives you an introduction to the scorecard. So what we have done, because we did not want to be duplicating again, we've sort of linked each of the benchmarks to a particular reference on the LabNet tool that you are all very familiar with. And also for those who have conducted diagnostic network assessments, we've also linked to a similar reference on the TB-Net tool that is also very closely related to the LabNet tool. So you have sort of 10 different capabilities that you could link to each of the benchmarks. So again, the benchmarks, as I've already shown you, the 4 steps and the 12 benchmarks, just showing you what is the numerator and denominator. And again, this is all very familiar to those of you who submit this data to WHO. And then when you look at what Elizabeth briefly outlined, so again, we look at each of the benchmarks and its sub-benchmarks. So within benchmark 1, that looks at screening of the presumptive TB, you have screening of the different people. So this is of course not directly data you would get from the TB reference lab, but the TB program has access to this data. But trying to link both the TB program and the TB reference lab, and you can then, based on what proportion of your household contacts or HIV people with HIV are screened, then that gives you a particular score. And depending on what you score on that particular benchmark, then we've just linked to what potential areas you could look into as you are now developing your work plan to really try and get us to universal access for WRDs. So similar when we come to a benchmark 3 that is directly related to our diagnostics, because if we have policies that talk about WRD use, then they should be available at all facilities in all districts. So again, based on the response you give around the proportion of the facilities or districts that have an algorithm, then we also link you to a particular capability reference to guide your work plan development. So you do that for all 12 benchmarks. And then once you've put in those scores, then as Elisheva was telling us, then that auto aggregates here. So for benchmarks, like benchmark 1, I showed you, it has three parts to it. So we get the minimum score for that particular benchmark, and then that is translated into a percentage. And then that translates to this radar plot where you can see which step you are doing well in and which steps need more attention to really get us to the 100% WRD use. And I think because this is the first time, and also even for the benchmarks, the data collection for the first time was done last year. So as we see the work plans that are then developed, then that also helps guide the planning for next year to see how do we refine the scorecard to make it fit for purpose for countries. So I will stop here and take any questions. Thank you.
Thanks a lot, Lucy. Thanks a lot, Elisheba. Okay, so we're waiting for some questions. At the moment, no major concern. The first one that I can quickly pick up here, I think this is what I'm going to address to Elisheba. Elisheba, please, in terms of timelines for the assessment, what should we be looking? What should we be looking at? What should countries be expecting, or what are we expecting from countries in terms of timelines for their assessments?
Thank you, Dr. Jane. I believe in terms of the timelines, you're looking at what the time frame is for the country teams to be conducting their assessments. Ideally, we would appreciate if the countries would choose time between mid of August and a little bit to the end of September, so that we are ready for the annual meeting in October.
Hey, great. So that works well. In terms of getting the tools ready and to the countries and feedbacks, channels, what will be the way to reach out to ASLM? Is it through the focal persons, or you have a lineup of contacts that countries can quickly address their concerns to?
I think the best person to answer that would be Francis, but I'll give it a stab. The country teams can reach out to any of us, and I think as we are sharing the tools and the guidance on the assessment, we're going to be providing a list of persons that they can feel free to reach out to in terms of the emails and WhatsApp numbers, so that you can easily call someone or text them on WhatsApp to be able to get guidance during the assessment. Francis, in case you have anything to add to that.
before Francis come. Okay, Francis,
Not
please
really,
go ahead.
Elshiba. So, sorry. Okay, yeah. So just to add to that. So the two questions. The first is on the timelines, and so like Shiba stated, let it be 15th August to around about mid-September, end of September. But that then means that countries should begin selecting their 3 days so that we are aware. And also the notice period, if you're letting us know that you're doing it on this date, please give us a lead time of about 2 weeks so that if there is any little support that you may need, we have the time to be able to look through our processes and process those little support that you may be asking for from us to be able to convene your meeting. And then on the last question that relates to the channeling, we have the LabCoP team leads in each of the countries. And of course, there are other LabCoP team leads that have designated other officers to support them with the day-to-day running of LabCoP activities. And so we'll be reaching out to the LabCoP team leads with our running communications. And so kindly get to us through Elishiba and myself. We will also have designated focal point persons from ASLM or LabCoP for that matter to support us with handling the assessments in the country, either virtually or for a few cases where we may need to travel. A few of us may be able to travel, but generally we'll be supporting you virtually. So we'll also make that list available to you so that you know who your focal person is from our side. Thank you, Anova.
Great, thanks a lot, Francis. I know the game changer in this wave of in-country self-assessment will be the TB group that is popping up. So in your presentation, Sheba, you did mention that in day 2, we're going to divide ourselves into 2 groups, and there's going to be a TB group. So I'm kind of wrangling and thinking over my head. Teams have not divided themselves already in a TB group. How is it going to work like? What do you advise? How will country go around that? We know the focal person, of course, within our team here will be Dr. Lucy, but within the group, within the countries, how do you advise them to go around that?
Thank you, Dr. Jane, for that. And maybe just a small correction is that the division of the groups is going to start on day 1. Once they complete looking back at their previous work plans, they are highly advised to split into groups from day 1 because the TB work stream is new, the tool is new, and it's heavy. So if they can start on day 1, so that they have their TB point of person, and of course, someone from the HIV to join the TB group, so that because there's usually a very thin line between the TB and HIV groups. So if they can have representatives to form the TB group, so that they can start the TB assessment as a group from day 1, that would be very key. But it would, just to repeat, it would be very important as you're pulling in the teams to do your assessment, to ensure that you have a TB focal point, country focal point to lead the TB work stream or TB group.
Yeah, thank you so much. Lucy, I want you to weigh in here. What would you like the TB subgroup to be constituted like? Who are the what specialties? What the skills or what person will be part of that TB group?
I think, as Elisheba has already mentioned, I think the countries would know better who would best be represented in that group. I think as we share the tools with them and they see what's needed or what data might be needed, then they can have the relevant people. And I think because countries have already been submitting this data to the WHO, they might already know who are the key people who normally do that. And then, of course, you definitely would need someone from the TB reference lab, from the TB programs itself, but I think we leave it to the countries to define who will be there. But I think important, as Elisheba has mentioned, that it's people who will be essential to actually then develop the work plan and then have that work plan budgeted. So you need to have representatives to ensure you are able to have that final output at the end. Over.
Great, that's awesome. Before we draw the curtain, it would be great to provide a little bit insight on the logistics and support. And at this stage, I'd like Francis, will you please give us closing remarks and any other word you have to share before we call it a day?
Thank you, Jane, and our two powerful ladies, do I call them, Lucy and Elisheba, for a very great session. And I thought this really will go a long way in making sure that even when we still will have some back and forth with the country teams, it will be less intense because we've really decomposed the tools and then the requirements after the assessment quite well. So from our side, we will be looking forward to a lot of communications now related to the assessment, and then moving it on from there to the annual meeting. We will be asking a lot of things, including contacts for your accounting officers at the Ministry of Health, so that we can then get the nominations of participants who are going to join the annual meeting in Nairobi. I think this information is already out there, but also allow me to take this opportunity to inform you that our annual meeting is going to be in Nairobi between the 22nd to 24th. Those are our proposed dates, and it is agreed to by most of our partners. But if anything changes, we'll also still be communicating. And then the assessments should start about mid-August, like we stated, but be very kind and kindly make sure that when you're giving us the dates, give us at least a 2 weeks notice period, like I stated. 3 weeks or longer is even better for us, so that then if we need to plan on our side for any support, virtual support that you may need, or securing a few venues here and there, then we will be able to pull those resources together within that time. Thank you, and over from my side.
Great. So on this note, this is a good point to call it a day. Before leaving, we'd like to apologize for starting a little bit late today. And of course, the little background noise that we got in the course of those presentations. Please, we apologize for those and we'll make corrections the next time. So do enjoy the rest of your day and thank you for joining. Thank you.